Hello, all you amazing creators of habit. I'm really going to make that a thing. You may as well get used to it. Welcome to Table to Stage. I am Jordan Worma. This week, I'm excited to bring you a conversation I had been looking forward to for quite some time. And after having to postpone the recording once, we were able to finally make it happen. Khamani Harrison is a UConn grad and an environmental engineer with a great passion for environmentalism and entrepreneurism. And when she decided that she needed to bring those passions and her resources to an underserved community, she turned to books as her vehicle. So if you visit keybookstore.com, you'll be able to see Khamani's current curated selection of books, which focus on the environment, entrepreneurism, spirituality, and Afrocentricity. I really hope you enjoy her story as much as I did. One thing I enjoy almost as much as hearing from creative people like Khamani is reading 5-star reviews on iTunes. Look, I know it's annoying, but the metrics say I have to do this every time, so it's not going to stop. So go visit Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you get your podcasts and leave a glowing, unreasonably excited review of the pod. Or you can send me an email at tabletostage@gmail.com. The emails are great. I love reading them. And you'll definitely get a response and probably a sticker, but it's the ratings and reviews that bring in more listeners. So, go do that. If you want swag, you can visit spreadshirt.com/tabletostage and check out the 2 different designs there for Creator of Habit and Keep Creating on all the different tchotchkes they've got there, sweatshirts, coffee mugs. Take a look. There's something for everybody, including the children in your life. Or to get more content and early access to newer episodes, some behind-the-scenes video, you can become a patron at patreon.com/tabletostage. All right, that's enough sales pitches. Let's get to Khamani. We sat down at the 224 in Hartford to record, and it's a public space for creators of all kinds and kids, so there's going to be some noise in the background. You'll get over it. I promise it's not too bad. And if I'm fortunate, I'll get a chance to record there again. It's really an incredible space. So if you want to learn more about that, you can visit the224.org. All right, that's it for now. Here's Khamani Harrison of the Key Bookstore. So I know that you're from California originally. Were you born there?
Correct. I was born in Beverly Hills, California.
Oh, wow. I've heard of that.
Certainly not raised there, but I was born there.
Okay. And you came to Connecticut to go to college, right?
Correct. My dream school, UConn.
How does UConn end up a dream school for somebody in California?
Well, my dad's family is actually from Connecticut, and everybody out here was a big basketball fan.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if basketball had something to do with it.
Correct. They were excited about how great the school was for basketball,
yeah,
which I had no interest in. But I visited the campus, and it was absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And then just the vibe around there, the people, the energy, and then all the degree programs I was flip-flopping in between, they had. So I was like, I know if I change my mind, they're going to have it, what I'm looking for.
So they had programs that you were interested in.
Mm-hmm.
How did you settle on environmental engineering?
Finally, how did I finally settle there? I started thinking about international business at first. That's what I thought I wanted to do.
Okay.
And then I found out engineers are the ones that create things.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, oh, there's mechanical engineers and chemical engineers. So I was like going to do both. But then I took an environmental science class, AP, in high school, and I knew I didn't want to do anything else before addressing the environment first.
What year are we talking about for high school for you?
What was that, 2010?
Okay.
2009 into 2010.
Okay, so yeah, I mean the climate science was sort of really hitting hitting the news hard around that time, right? And I know California is sort of always, at least on this side of the country, is seen as sort of this out in front of all the climate science stuff. So do you think that had anything to do with?
I don't think my head was really in the news or that climate kind of talk at that time whatsoever. We just had a really passionate teacher that made the class really engaging as well.
Well, that's really important too, like no matter what the subject is.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's true because my chemistry teacher, oh boy. We were going into the rings, essentially like, this ring can only have like this many protons, neutrons, and electrons.
Eight electrons in a ring.
I was like, what are you talking about? That was pretty.
Oh, chemistry is not for everybody, that's for sure. So you're not still doing environmental engineering, are you?
I actually am.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Currently, I'm actually in a government position working in air pollution control.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the Key Bookstore, which we're going to spend some time talking about, this is more of a passion project for you?
I would say that. At first it started as a necessity because after starting my first job out of school, I actually ended up getting laid off, unfortunately.
Oh, that happens to a lot of people these days.
That was a big wake-up call. And before that, I had entrepreneurship on my mind because I think self-sufficiency needs to be a part of everyone's agenda. And, they tell you, when you start a business, you should be set up this well or that well, like have these things in place. But that doesn't always happen.
Right.
You don't always have those tools. Even though you know better, you can't always do better.
Right.
So at first it was a necessity, but it's always going to be a part of my life.
Did you grow up reading a lot? Is that how did you first get interested in books?
I'd say I fell in and out of love with books from time to time. My family was taking my sister and I to the library to just look around and pick stuff out. And I did do reading when I was in elementary school, but then middle school hit, and middle school was a tough time. And they had all these reading lists for us to pick from, and I hated the books so much, but we had to read from these selections, and it was really off-putting.
What kind of books were on that list for you?
I'm trying to honestly remember. One was about some tornado that destroyed a family's life. And just, I'm learning now. Actually, I went back and read part of Lord of the Flies. Reading it now today, and I said, I'm like, this is a terrible book.
Yeah.
I didn't have to read more than a few pages to be like, I hate how this is written. I wouldn't pick this up now.
Yeah.
So to force children to read specific things that they have no interest in it.
Right. I remember middle school reading lists that I recall. Lord of the Flies was a big one. Catcher in the Rye, I think, was one.
I didn't have to read that one.
1984.
Animal Farm?
Animal Farm, yeah. That was
I did
George
not
Orwell
like
one.
that one.
So what kind of stuff did you enjoy, though?
What did I enjoy? So when I fell back in love with reading, the first book I started with was Stephen King's Misery.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, man, this is a good book. And then I found out that the libraries have this Friends of the Library bookstore thing.
Sure, yeah.
Where the books are a quarter, 50 cents, which was about my budget back then, for sure. And it still is now. But I was like, oh my goodness, I fell in love with that book. And then there's so many Stephen King books because he's such a popular author that I could go buy a bunch of his books and be entertained for a while.
Was there any that really stood out to you as like something that just really drew you in after Misery to continue reading? Did you go on like a Stephen King bender? Like I did that. I'm sort of still doing that. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, there were so many good books that I read. I was just into horror at the time. I was reading him, Dean Koontz.
Yeah, Dean Koontz is the other big one. Yeah.
John Saul.
Sure.
John Saul was another one. Like The God Project was a good book.
Okay.
Dean Koontz, I think Velocity
was a
good one.
Good, yeah. Watchers was the one that got me hooked on Dean Koontz. It's one of his earlier ones. I think it was Genetically Enhanced Dog or something like that.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. So, but like that sort of that genre, I guess, of book, I think kind of calls out to people in that age, that middle school, high school age, where horror, thriller kind of thing. And then I think a lot of people kind of move on from that, and then they go into other things. So did you stay in that realm of book for a while, or did you move on to something else?
I did stay in it. It probably held me down throughout high school, and then, I would pick something up time to time. Gerald's Game, sorry.
Oh, Gerald's Game, yeah.
Was another phenomenal one. That one had me wrapped up from page one.
Yeah.
But, so that had me wrapped up for a while. But then, in college when you have less time to spend on these extracurricular activities, I was just kind of like, reading these stories doesn't benefit me, really. Like, sure, it's for entertainment, but I have plenty of entertainment in college. So then, I kind of lost my love for reading again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So how did you come to the determination that creating a bookstore was the thing that you needed to do? Because the Key Bookstore, it really seems like in order to create this, you must have had some sort of really deep drive to make it happen.
You know what it was? It was, I think, around 2015 and 16. There were a lot of police shootings and killings.
Yeah.
The Trayvon Martin case and beyond.
Yeah.
That really, really woke me up. There was a lot of chaos going on in the country. And even on our campus at UConn, like, we were having issues with administration, with the way things were being handled, about the racism and cultural disparities and things like that were going on campus.
I remember there being a story about like campus security and violence against women or something like that a few years ago. I don't know if that...
I think if it's the same one about the fraternity and sorority that went down. We have this rock, one of many on campus, and you paint it overnight, and there's no real territory over it. There's rules to painting the rock. And when a black sorority, AKA, they were painting the rock and were being harassed and intimidated by a non-Divine Nine fraternity on campus. And it didn't get handled well at all, the repercussions for that. So... it caused outrage on campus.
Yeah.
It can be really bothersome when it's obvious that the punishment hardly fits the crime.
Right. And it's also not doled out equally, depending.
Right.
I have difficulty sometimes with this sort of topic because, I'm a middle-aged white dude. You know what I mean? Like, and I can only be so what's the word? Empathetic about stuff.
Empathetic, right? Totally.
Before it starts to become before it starts to sound false. Do you know? Does that make sense to you?
I really do understand. Yeah, where it's like, okay, do you or do you just feel the sense to like come and be a godsend?
Right. Like I don't ever want to come across as like, hey, I'm the white guy that's going to come in and save everybody. But at the same time, I really do understand that there's a lot of stuff that goes on that even though I want to be able to relate to people and help, I can't relate to it, but I can certainly do my part to recognize that and kind of move forward from it. So you mentioned the Trayvon Martin thing and all the police violence, and I mean, there are people who continue to say that it's not it's not a racially motivated thing, and I don't know what they're seeing because it quite clearly is, always has been, and continues to be.
That's the biggest point. Always has been.
Right. Always has been. It's a systemic thing going back hundreds of years in this country, and I don't know how we fix it. That said, when it drives somebody like yourself to create something that touches a piece of that and helps move the conversation forward, that's awesome. And so for the Key, I mean, you're inspired by all of these events to create a bookstore. So what is it about books and the reading that you think can be a big factor in the conversation on this stuff moving forward? How does it help people?
So when all that stuff was happening, I was looking for answers. And I was doing my environmental thesis at the time and was having to do a lot of research for that. And in our conversations with me and my advisor, he was making me aware that the conversation goes beyond the numbers. Like, numbers show you that things should make sense to move in a certain way.
Right.
And when they don't, it's because of, like, generally the history and politics of something.
Yeah.
So that requires a deeper level of research. And so when it came to these race matters, talking to my generation, they don't know. And some, talking to who you think might have the answers, they might only know the surface level things.
Sure.
So I needed to find substantial answers to the current situation, the current climate in the community. And so I was like, okay, where do I start? In the library.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. But when it came to these matters, I was thinking of bookstore, and I was thinking of Black-owned bookstores. Okay. Because I figured they would have a tailored selection for...
Did you seek out Black-owned businesses for this kind of thing?
I was like, those are going to be my hubs for information.
Yeah.
So I'm from California, so I would visit home in Los Angeles. There's a number of them to choose from.
Right.
So that's where my journey began.
Okay.
It was a bookstore, I think it's called Zara's out in LA.
Okay.
And I didn't know where to start, once again. I just let something choose me.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere, even if you don't know where it's going to be.
And the book that changed my life was Survival Strategies for Africans in America. It's a book by Anthony Browder, and it's the Browder Files. And come to find out, that book has inspired and changed the lives of many, many others.
Yeah.
Those Browder Files. It's not a long book.
Okay.
It's a great start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was the next step for you? I mean, you're identifying these businesses that you see as providing literature to people that aren't being served elsewhere, right? How did you go about determining that you were going to do that yourself? And where did the idea for your specific idea of not necessarily a brick and mortar store, not necessarily like an online superstore, but a very specifically curated, and as you describe it on your website, an interactive experience. Like, how did you take that idea of the bookstore and make it interactive and decide how you're going to curate that experience for people?
So me as a book reader, I hadn't bought any books online.
Yeah.
And I saw the value in all the different aspects. So I made it a point when I traveled to look for Black-owned bookstores.
Yeah.
So I've been everywhere from like Maryland to even here in Connecticut, True Books, and just anywhere I could go, I would go check those out. I would feel what the environment was and how I longed for that kind of feeling and experience, and also their expertise to navigate you through the information.
Yeah. So this is like you said you're longing for it. Is that like the community as part of a bookstore, or just the experience of being in that space with people who can talk to you about the books rather than just kind of going online and anonymously dropping stuff into a cart?
A combination of the two.
Okay.
How often do you get to be in a bookstore as readers, right? How often do we get to actually be in a bookstore? And then, the Barnes and Nobles and things like that, they're not so much curated.
No, they're not.
No.
They're not at all.
Right. So
they're just as much toy stores now as they are bookstores for
truly.
the most part. Yeah.
You know what I noticed actually walking into them nowadays? They don't have seating everywhere like they used to. It's all in Starbucks.
Yeah, it's in the whatever coffee shop they've got.
I was like, I'm trying
to
Are
they all Starbucks now?
Man. I think so.
Yeah, they might be.
Or whatever.
And they have some seating around the toy section.
Oh,
and
do they?
By the magazines. Yeah, because they
it's all right there. So I was like, that's rude.
You used to be able to sit down like in the aisles. And
exactly.
Yeah,
that's not because I looked around recently and I was like, do you notice? Does anyone else notice this?
Yeah.
Just the level of intimacy. I'm trying to have an intimate conversation with people or read my book, and you have to be in a cafe setting.
Right.
But sorry, let's backtrack.
No,
so the question was,
like, if you're going to curate a selection and make it an interactive experience for people, how do you go about deciding how you're going to create that selection and how you're going to make that an interactive way to engage with potential readers of these books?
Well, I saw the importance of curation because I was like, there's a lot of information, misinformation, false information out here. And I saw, once I got like Tony Browder's book and I looked for Tony Browder, and I saw he was doing events around the country still. So I was like, oh, click, like, let me go find him and see who's he with, who he is with, and see what he talks about. And that's how you start to learn.
So did you actually track him down?
Yeah.
What was that like? You said his book changed your life.
Yes.
So I would imagine meeting the author had to be kind of transformative.
I wish we have... I need all day to tell you like how amazing it was 2016, how amazing that year was.
Yeah.
Spiritually. Like, I saw he was having this event. I had no money whatsoever. Yeah. I had no money whatsoever, but I wanted to get to this event. On Facebook, so it's down in Maryland.
Okay.
And I'm like, I think I have enough money to get one ticket for one of the days. It's a 2-day event. I still have to figure out how I'm going to get down there.
Yeah.
Then, one night, I'm on Facebook, and one of my friends from UConn, from the marching band, posts that he's going to Maryland and will be there for a week. If anyone wants to join him, they can.
Serendipity.
I was like, are you kidding? Because, I really don't have any money. He was like, yeah, I already paid for everything. I just wanted to go with a friend. I was like, and he was going to be there for the exact amount of time I needed to be there.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was able to ride with him, and then I was able to get to the event. And, yeah, I got to meet him. We, seeing the author, we made a connection line.
Yeah.
And I have pictures with him and stuff now.
Oh, that's great.
But
Now, did you have the idea for the Key Bookstore in
At
your
that
head
time?
at that time when you met him?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I was still learning about how powerful the material in these books are.
Yeah.
But to get to the curation aspect, I was like, there's a lot of information out here. And especially I'll say this. In the age of information, you need curation.
Yeah.
So it's great to have a bunch of information out there, but without that aspect, then your platform is no different than anything else.
You need to know how to parse legitimate information from all the garbage that's
Which
out there.
only a human can do.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
can do as many algorithms as you want, but you're not going to be able to venture from
Right,
that
right,
algorithm unless you have that.
Yeah, those algorithms like Netflix and Amazon, they give me so many bad recommendations.
Isn't that funny, right?
And I know that there are people I can talk to that will always give me better recommendations than any machine's going to at this point.
Absolutely.
And I know that day is coming, but
Yeah.
it's not now.
No, right. And I'm learning where to find more and more like recommendations for books. But I mean, it's a nice little start to just kind of see how they pair stuff. But
Yeah.
nothing like the human connection. And really, the key is a reflection of like my identity.
Yeah.
I'm an environmental engineer. I know how important it is to first address Mother Nature,
Sure.
Mother Earth. And then, obviously, Afrocentricity, I am black.
Yeah.
And I do identify as such. And, that reading isn't generally a priority in our community, but it's a huge thing that we need to change our circumstances.
So do you find that reading just in general is not as big a part of the black community as it is in other cultures, or is that a Connecticut thing, or?
No, I think it's in general.
Okay.
It's not.
I mean, there have been some major influential writers out of the black community.
Think I could almost say, because I'm thinking about the size of the community, especially in comparison to maybe some of the other cultures, and maybe in some ways it is kind of comparable.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not. It's most of what is talked about is over like music and pop culture and stuff. It's not literature.
Okay. So when you're going through and trying to curate your collection for your project, are there certain criteria that you're looking for? Are you looking for fiction? Are you looking for nonfiction? Different topics you're looking for? Like how does something get into this curated collection?
So my main focus is books for knowledge and wisdom. I consider it.
Okay.
Obviously I consider it. I wanted to make it a point, like I don't like to do like the particular urban kind of romance drama novels, which those kind of are big reading topics for our community. But that's not going to get you anywhere. It's kind of going to keep you in that circular state of like, this is the drama that we see every day. So I didn't want to particularly put that stuff in there. Any of the stuff I really try and focus on knowledge, but I can get people any book that they essentially want, especially when their focus is buying local.
So if somebody's at your event and they want a book you don't have, you can still find it for them.
I can get people any book that they want. Yeah.
All right. Now, do you find that when you're trying to find these books that meet the criteria you're looking for, something that expands knowledge or provides wisdom, do you find that most of that ends up being historical or biographical, or is there a good mix of prose or poetry or fiction or anything like that in there? Because I know a lot of people find wisdom in lots of different things and knowledge from different areas. So I'm just kind of curious, like, what, because the whole bookstore idea, and especially the curated part of it is a really big extension of your personality. So
Yeah.
so I'm wondering how like it, as far as coming from you, where do you tend to find these things that you're looking for?
You brought up a great point. It does literally come from all those different avenues, like reading a biography of like Frederick Douglass and seeing the similarities between then and now.
Oh yeah.
You'll be like, are you kidding me? Like, it's just mind blowing.
Right.
So,
Yeah, he was incredible.
yeah, and W.E.B. Du Bois.
Yeah.
Just the language that was used even back then, you're like, when almost like educating yourself and reading was illegal, like to have such a powerful work is to come out of that time is just insane. But as far as I would say that the curation really is just for the forefront, like the storefront, just so you can get an idea of what this bookstore's premise is all about. But yeah, you could request anything that you would want.
Yeah. Okay. And what sort of audience are you looking for, or when you're choosing the books you're going to put out there? Are you taking into account a specific event and the
Actually,
people that you
yes.
think will be there?
Definitely. Like, I've done events with entrepreneurs in business. I literally ordered a ton of book, like Mind Hacking, The Power of Habit, Smarter, Faster, Better, like a bunch of books like that. And like, I find recommendations from like podcasts and things like that are geared towards that. Like, the Hartford actually has a small like business owners podcast that they do.
Okay.
Where they sometimes bring up books and things like that. What other events have I done? Like brunches or day parties and things like that. I'll pick out a selection for that.
Okay. I mean, I know your current, like, I'm looking at your website right now, and I know you have Michelle Obama's book is right on the front page there, which I haven't read yet, but I intend to.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, is the collection that's there right now, I guess that includes Michelle Obama, but it also has a baby name book and Algorithms to Live By, Sojourner Truth. So how are you specifically looking for currently socially relevant titles? Or are you looking at different trends in business or education? Because these books that you have right on the front page are just from wildly different sectors of the literary world: business, health, history, biography. That looks like a collection of fables, maybe. It's hard to tiny little thumbnail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
African traditions, Ashanti to Zulu African traditions. So how did you come across this particular selection?
So the first run of books that are up there have been like recommendations and from leaders in the community.
Oh, okay.
Like Dr. Umar Johnson and like Tony Browder and whoever else. Obviously the Obamas.
Yeah.
Really recommendations from a lot of the people I find in those different sectors that I feel like are having progressive conversations.
Okay.
But as far as I continue to expand it, I'm trying to find ways of finding more curated selections. So like there's different magazines and things like that will have come out with lists, or there's conversations happening in different spaces that I would like to add the books from.
Yeah.
But there's millions of books
on
many. These.
So many.
So it's really kind of, I want to just slap a lot of everything on there so people can just have a good old time.
Yeah.
But I want segments on the website to help people navigate. And I'm working on the subscription boxes.
Oh, so you're gonna do like a box with a couple books in it. That's great. Those are popular these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's how I'm going to branch off.
I love that idea.
And I'm doing my research. I'm seeing what's being offered right now,
Yeah.
what I plan to offer, and just the interactive experience.
Yeah.
No other bookstore, like especially whether it's online or if it is in person, like if it's a brick and mortar, they're having the events there.
Yeah.
But to get out in the streets and be a part of events and bring the literature out there and stuff like that, they're not necessarily doing that.
Right.
And so this is not just a box you're getting at home. You're going to be a part of the Key Bookstore experience community. Like we're on Instagram. You can see other people reading the same book you are and engage.
Yeah. Now, since you're going to all these different events and you have different groups of people that you're going to be interacting with, I know the hope is that people are always going to be open to the idea of reading a book. But as you said a few minutes ago, it's not as big a part of the community as it probably should be.
Mm-hmm.
Reading, education, all that stuff is something that I think everybody should be striving for all the time. But it's hard to do, especially people working 2-3 jobs all the time.
Hello.
Yeah. So sitting down and reading a book is not always the first thing on people's minds. So when you're going to these events and you're meeting with people and you're trying to make books an interactive thing and engaging, for those people that aren't necessarily traditionally thought of as readers, people who don't have a book on their nightstand, aren't taking a book with them on the subway or on the bus or whatever, how do you try to reach out to people who don't automatically gravitate toward books and try to get them engaged in reading some of these titles that you're finding from all these really important subjects?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have strategies or different creative ways to get them interested or excited about reading a book?
I would say first it's been in the spaces that I'm in.
Okay.
So I'm not like at all the time. I'm not at a book club all the time,
Right.
or I'm literally at a day party.
Okay.
Or people, we like that. Let's have a good time.
Yeah.
I've noticed that sometimes when people see the readers who gravitate so strongly to the books,
Mm-hmm.
there's a curiosity there, and they love having a recommendation.
Yeah.
So then they feel a personal connection to the book and then want to move forward and gain whatever everybody else is getting to experience.
Sure.
The marketing as well. I think what I'm trying to give off online is like a young, because I think they're the ones that really, if you haven't figured out that you need to be reading by the time you got older, you probably would never want to do it,
Right.
But
Yeah, if it doesn't become a part of you early on, it's really, it seems to be hard to kind of make that something that you really feel like doing later
pick
on.
up,
Yeah.
But trying to say like, this is a sexy, intellectual, fun experience that will bring you closer to other people and in a deeper way.
Yeah.
And people want to more imitate, fine art. And that's what I'm trying to give off. Like, this is what's going on today. Subscription boxes are popular, internet, Instagram. Like, if you see a lot of the bookstores and stuff like that aren't really on Instagram either, marketing in a certain way.
Yeah.
It's not, here's a little event and this and that,
Mm-hmm.
but making it sexy, making it relevant.
Yeah.
That's how I'm trying to reach out.
So you're, for the most part, looking at younger audiences as potential customers, potential readers for your books?
I'd say, yeah, I'd probably target from like 40 somethings to like teenagers.
Okay.
And kids.
Yeah, I know you do have a few kids' books on the site right now.
It's hard because they have such a vast reading to be able to curate for them.
Yeah.
Like curating for a 10-year-old is different than for a 3-year-old.
Sure.
So
Oh yeah.
trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, well, we have trouble with that at my house.
Oh, yeah?
Trying to figure out what's going to work for all three of them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, have you found that when you're deciding to have this collection available, and you've got, let's say you want to have, I don't know how many titles you generally work with, but let's say you want to have a list of 50 books that you have available to people. How do you eliminate the books? Because I think we've covered how you choose the ones you're gonna keep.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you decide this one's not right for what I'm trying to do? Is it maybe a topic? I'm guessing controversial topics aren't so much a problem.
No.
But yeah. So how do you make that decision? Like this is a book that I don't really want to include here, or you don't want to endorse.
I don't so much like, the thing is, really the main curation comes from when I travel. So what I'm finding out now is like, what books do I want on the actual table, which is going to be the most minuscule part of what the entire bookstore is going to offer online. You know, because hand selecting this one and that one, and I've even had to notice that there's some bestsellers actually right now that I felt like you can get better information in a different way than reading this book per se. So when I say curation and things like that, focus on like the reading challenges or the lists, or like the, owner's picks or something like that.
Yeah.
That's when I'm not going to steer you wrong. You know, books I've had out on the table, I've had to I don't want to bring that book back. One, it might be hard to get off the table.
Yeah.
And then it's tough too, because I don't want to keep showing up everywhere and people are like, oh, well, you got the same old books.
Yeah.
So I do like to add. Well, it's great that there's so many great books that have been coming out lately.
Sure.
The Hate You Give just came out.
Okay.
And Children of Blood and Bone, I just added that to the table.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what because I can't parent people's reads, and that's not what I want to do. It's just an overall topic that I might not want to carry.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it sounds like you've sort of taken the old Scholastic model and kind of brought it for a new audience. Do you know what I mean? Like
from the elementary schools?
Yeah, from like the old, where they'd have all the books out on the tables.
I used to love
it was the highlight
those.
of the school year.
Yes.
Now they do one every 2 weeks, and it's a little overwhelming.
Do they really?
Seems like it. We have those flyers on them all the time.
You probably feel like that as a parent.
But it seems like you've kind of taken that idea of this collection of books appropriate for an audience that you have identified, and you said these are the books that that experts and that people in our community really feel are important. These are the ones that I personally feel connected to, or I'm willing to put my own recommendation behind. And I feel like that has to give a certain level of confidence to people who interact with you and consider the titles that you've put forward. Have you gotten to have conversations with people about that kind of thing? What kind of feedback do you get when you're interacting with your customers?
I'd say big time is reading has obviously given me a level of confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already an Aries, so that comes with a certain level of confidence. But actually, I think that was a huge pick-me-up in high school, was reading to get the level of confidence.
Oh, okay.
Going back to that.
Yeah.
But It does help that I've read most of the books on the table.
Okay.
To know what I'm talking about and how they've impacted my life.
Yeah.
And then because I can talk about it from a personal standpoint, when people are not so sure, like, hey, even big readers, to be able to trust, hey, I've read, literally this happened this past weekend. Okay, what do you recommend? And I was like, well, what do you like to read? La, la, la. And she's like, I've read this. So what else could you recommend? I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, this is, and I can take it, even, and still have that level of confidence that even you as a reader can identify with my heart behind this book and be moved enough to purchase it.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy a book you're not even remotely interested in reading.
I hope not.
Yeah.
So just sit on the shelf collecting dust.
That's the funny thing about books and book readers. We're very passionate, and purchasers as well, and we get very excited. And I didn't mention this before, but how I kind of even saw this as a model was I went to conferences where bookstores would pop up in there and have all these titles on the table, and I went nuts.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I know this is on my list to read, this. You have so many gems on the table, and I would spend so much money, happily, with these tools that if I'm not going to read it today, I'm going to read it at some point.
Sure.
But yeah, it certainly does help give confidence to the audience that I'm speaking to have read the books myself.
Yeah.
I'm not a con artist up there. I'm not like, oh, here's these.
There's a book about snake oil, so read this one. But like, just being able to put a book in somebody's hand, does that have an impact? Like, as you're talking about it, to be able to pick the book up off the table and say, here's a book I think you'd enjoy, and just have them hold the book, does that change conversation at all sometimes? So I feel like if you're just looking at it online, it's easy enough to just kind of scroll by it, and like the cover doesn't look interesting, so I'm going to move on past it. But I think, if you're speaking to somebody about it, and you pick it up, and they can hold it, it changes the experience.
Books are such a funny thing with selling.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like online, and I never bought online, things like that. Like, it does help to physically have the book in hand and be able to speak. I've been able to sell books. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
And people have been able to come back and tell me, like, Khamani, this is like one of the best books I've ever read. This book was amazing. People are like quitting their jobs and starting their business, and like they're like,
wow,
thank you for what you're doing in the community. And like these books have such a powerful impact on people.
Yeah.
I mean, just being able to speak from my own standpoint, or just people have it's more of a belief in themselves.
Okay.
They're making the decision, hey, I'm ready to make this change. So I have the confidence that this might be a tool to get there, and they invest the time to read every page of it.
Yeah. So do you find like the entrepreneurial books are the most effective in terms of maybe motivating people?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, The Art of Seduction, I can't keep in stock. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm looking at my list of topics right now.
Oh, no, it's not good.
I think we got them all.
Great.
Yeah, we got them all. We got everything.
Oh, perfect.
And I know you have had a sort of an off and on relationship as a reader yourself, right? So you've gone through periods where you've read a lot, and then you've said before that you've sort of backed off from reading because it was no longer fun. Are you back into that avid reader space now?
Dude, literally right now, I have like 5 books I'm bouncing between.
Yeah.
I have one that I wanted to read at the start of the year, Emotional Intelligence 2.0.
Okay.
I need help with that. But I found Invisible Man, Ralph Ellison, and didn't mean to read it, but it showed up.
How do you accidentally read something?
Right? It was at my job in a book swap.
Oh,
I was like, man,
okay.
you guys got some good books here.
Yeah.
And from the second chapter, I'm like, this is an amazing book. Wow. And then there's Isaac Asimov's Chronology of the World.
Okay.
Because it's
little light reading there.
literally so heavy.
I know.
So I have to sit at home and stick with that one. So I'm like, I can't travel with that one.
You almost need a tripod for that book, I think.
Seriously, I didn't think about that. Yeah. I didn't think about that. There's that, and then Smarter, Faster, Better, I'm reading right now, too. I'm getting so much from all of it. It's like they're all...
Yeah.
I feel like Dragon Ball Z, they're all...
Oh, I don't know anything about Dragon
Me
Ball
either.
Z.
I think...
That's not a reference. That's not a reference I can communicate on.
I just think they're like charged up or whatever.
Okay, all right.
That's all I know.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if you're in that space where you are excited about reading and passionate about reading, and being able to share that with other people.
You got to change it up.
Yeah.
It's like you have to, because I was reading a bunch of like African American history and blah.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm starting to get a little jaded by this.
Okay.
Starting a new year and having the entrepreneurship stuff really heavy on my heart and my mind. Yeah. Now I'm excited again.
Right.
That's what you need in life. Like you have to remember how to recharge yourself.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, reading is exactly the kind of thing they use for that. Music, reading, whatever it is, like having that outlet, that thing that kind of creates the spark, or drives your passions and everything. And some people have trouble finding that, and I think the more books you read, the more ideas you get. The more ideas you get, the more sparks you get.
All the answers are in the books.
All of them, every single.
All the answers, all the keys are in the books.
Yep. Oh, is that where the key
comes
from? Okay.
I was like, we didn't talk about that.
No, yeah. So let's talk about that. Where did the name come from?
Oh, gosh. 2016. I think it was still 2016.
That was a busy year.
It was, or was it? I'm trying to remember now. But there were literally multiple keys at once, right? So I was reading the ISIS papers, the Master Key, and then a friend of mine was reading DJ Khaled's The Keys or something.
I don't know.
You don't know that book? It's like wildly popular. But there was like 3 books at once that were all keys. And then I was like, wait a minute. I didn't pick... The ISIS papers is The Keys to the Colors. That's like the subtitle.
Okay.
And so I was like, how is it that all these things are... And literally I felt like I'm getting key, like... the keys from the books. Like, these are my keys to unlocking more information and things like that. So when I was trying to figure out the name, that came to me. I was like, the books are the Key Bookstore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I came up with that one.
All right, so what are the different ways people can find your stuff? You've got a website?
Yes, keybookstore.com.
What about social media?
I'm on Facebook at The Key Bookstore, which is how you found me.
Okay.
And then Instagram at Key Bookstore.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Do you have any community events coming up?
Coming up, we have Black Wall Street. I think it's New Haven coming up in February. Stay tuned on Instagram because that's where I like to post everything. It's just so easy on there. I'm also going to be updating the website soon to include this year's events that I know of so far. Yeah, and just if you want to find out, if you're in the Connecticut area especially, just message me to see what's up next, and I'll let you know.
Facebook or Instagram?
Either one of them. Yeah, totally.
Okay. All right. So last thing I always like to do with everybody before I allow you to leave, I like to get as many recommendations from people for new experiences, new things as I can. So do you have anything recently that you've experienced that you think other people would enjoy, or even if they wouldn't enjoy it, that they must experience?
I'll tell you this. Like total honesty. Having total honesty with yourself and with other people.
Yeah, that's not enjoyable, but it might be important.
It is not. It isn't. But when you finally face like the things that you won't even acknowledge for yourself because your ego and pride are totally in the way, blinding you from that.
Yeah.
And you have all like this big wall built up, and it might come from other people telling you this stuff, and you letting go and accepting that. I would say that is something you have to experience.
Yeah. Oof, that's not light.
Well, will something light really change you, or something that hits you like a freaking
definitely true, yeah.
brick? Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate you taking the time. How are you feeling right now?
Elated.
Yeah.
I really appreciate this conversation. I look forward to even more in the future. I look forward to hearing more from your interviewees, and the spaces you end up.
Yeah.
Is just, I love what we're building out here.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So thank you again to Khamani Harrison for coming on the pod to talk about not only the Key Bookstore, but why she feels it's so important within the Black community to have such a resource available. Really awesome stuff. This would be a great episode to base those 5-star reviews on, wouldn't it? So make sure you get that done. And while you're at the keyboard, make sure to visit keybookstore.com to see what Khamani is curating today. And then before you get up from the keyboard, visit spreadshirt.com/table2stage to outfit yourself with some killer pod swag. And be sure to subscribe to the pod and follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for updates, additional info, and all kinds of other shenanigans. That is it for now. Until next time, keep creating.